loudspeaker, the microphones and so on. First of all, Paul, thank you for that, and thank you everyone for being here today to show your determination to create a society free of racism and free of discrimination. But I also want to say a huge thank you to Finsbury Park Mosque, to Muslim Welfare House, to Holloway Road Mosque, Hornsey Road Mosque, Parkhurst Road Mosque, and the synagogues in Hackney and so many other places that have all turned out on today, this day, when we're showing our determination to stand up to racism in any form. And as Paul says, if you don't confront the racists, they take over. He's right about Cable Street in the 1930s. He was right about the 1970s. Some of you, not many of you, are old enough to remember the 1970s. You are, Paul, but and I am as well. In the 1970s, the National Front gained 100,000 votes across London in the GLC elections of 1977. They tried to organise a march through Haringey, through Wood Green, all the way up to Southgate. Bernie Grant, myself and a number of others organised a huge demonstration to try and stop them. We weren't totally successful, but we mobilised then 5,000 people, and many thousands more came to Lewisham a few weeks later, where the National Front were well and truly stopped. The anti-Nazi League grew, the anti-racist movement grew, Rock Against Racism grew, and so much else. And the National Front went into a big decline after that. But they never disappeared. I remember here in the early 1980s, shortly after I was elected to Parliament, the National Front owned a house on Avenel Road. I called it the House of Hate. They owned this house in order to try and entice Arsenal supporters over to their racist way of thinking. And they set up this disgusting place just opposite the East Stand. The community mobilised and marched around the area, got the place closed down and declared Finsbury Park a Nazi-free zone. And I was proud of what we did that day. But over the last few weeks, you've seen something deeply horrible and deeply disturbing all across this country. When Muslim-owned businesses felt the need to close early, or indeed sometimes not open at all. When many Muslim women felt afraid to go out because they didn't know what was going to happen to them. When solicitors' practices that have been helping refugees felt the need to have security on the door. When community centres were afraid to open and started cancelling events. That was a message of hate and a message of fear. And after that horrible, horrible murder in Southport, the attack that then took place, completely irrationally, took place against the mosque in Southport, was a disgusting and frightening spectacle. To the credit of many people in Southport and on Merseyside, the following morning, building workers and others turned up at the mosque, rebuilt the wall that had been destroyed, painted the doors, fixed the windows, cleaned the whole place up and said, "You are part of our community." That's the answer to these people. That's the answer to these people who spread solely a language of hate and fear. And of course, if it's not challenged, it will grow and get worse and worse. But, and this is a big but, Paul quite rightly pointed out that the language that the far right are now using is attacking refugees, is attacking people that have come by boat from Calais, is attacking anyone that's made their home in this country, and attacking particular faiths. In this case, it's Islam. They're attacking all the time. But I have to say to my many colleagues in Parliament, your endless speeches describing desperate victims of war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, as people trying to invade this country in inflatable boats from Calais, creating in them the image of an enemy trying to take over our country, has fueled the far right and fueled the racism in our society. Those poor people in Calais, and I've been there many times, and I've met many of them, are utterly desperate. you would have to be utterly desperate to risk everything to get in one of those vessels and try and cross the channel. So what we need is safe routes for refugees in order to seek a place of safety. And when the election came, and there was a bit of competition on language that will be used, we're going to send people back, we're going to deport people, we're going to deport more than you are. Hang on a minute, think of what you're saying and think of that message and think where that message is carried through. It is very, very dangerous language, and somewhere on the Neanderthal far right, somebody will pick that up, pick up a brick and start throwing it through the window of a mosque. Once you set that horrible thing out of the kennel, it's very hard to get it back. And so our message has to be, yes, of the unity of our communities, and here in Finsbury Park I'm proud to say how united we are as a community, but it's also looking at the conditions under which the far right mobilise themselves. Because this week there was something horribly reminiscent of the history of Nazi Germany in the 1930s, when gangs in the 1930s identified synagogues, they identified Jewish-owned businesses, they identified Jewish-owned homes, and they attacked them. And they burnt them down. Kristallnacht killed many, many people. That was the mobilization of a far-right group of ignorant people on the basis that somehow or other all of their problems were caused by the Jewish people, the gay community, the Gypsy Roman traveller community, any identifiable minority. And so they feed on poverty, they feed on inadequate housing, they feed on underfunded schools, they feed on privatised healthcare, they feed on the destruction of public services and the common realm. And so our campaign against racism in any form is also part and parcel of a campaign for a more decent, more equal society. It's a campaign for better housing. It's a campaign for control of the private rented sector. It's a campaign to build more council housing. It's a campaign to stop handing our National Health Service over to the privateers and the profiteers. It's a campaign on all of these issues. And so our message today is, here we are very united. We're not going away, we're not giving up. And reforming and rejuvenating the anti-racist campaign is very important, because a few weeks ago I was on the anti-racist demonstration in Russell Square, but I can't be the only person that was pretty horrified at the number of people that Stephen Yaxley Lennon managed to get into Trafalgar Square that day. And the numbers of people that he mobilised. Well, he's not quite a loser, because he's actually on a sun lounger in Cyprus at the moment, apparently paying £400 a night for it. So he is directing far-right, fascist, racist activity from the luxury of a hotel somewhere in Cyprus. Well, come on, doesn't that say it all about the cynicism of his movement and what they're about? I'll tell you what, we're a bit better than that, because we're united, we're together, we're of all faiths and none, we're of all communities, we're of a whole range of different languages, but above all, we're a community that will stand up for each other and defend each other and will not allow ourselves to be divided. And so, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for your demonstration and your determination. And if we get another day in which the far right start to label places they're going to go and attack, just pitch up there and help out by just standing in the street. And what was interesting this week was, yes, the police were very much in evidence all over the country. Yes, they were arresting far-right fascists for their violent activity. But what really, really made the difference was the voice of people just coming out there and saying, no way, not in our name, not in our manner, not in our borough, not here in Finsbury Park, not anywhere else. Unity against fascism, unity against racism, unity for a fair, equal and more just society. Thank you very much.